Part 26. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 256. Jack the Ripper advanced instead of retreating. He held two black knives in his left and right hands, and the tips of the blades were pointed inwards. The tips of the two black knives are only a few inches apart. If they hit the abdomen of a human body, just tear it outward and the entire abdomen will be completely opened. Real disembowelment. Two knives. Yejing was slightly stunned by Jack the Ripper's move. They had very little information about Jack the Ripper. No one expected that there was a hidden weapon. When they were close, two black knives penetrated Yejing. Abdomen. Damn it! Yejing secretly cursed cunning, and subconsciously held the golden knife tightly with his backhand from top to bottom, holding it in front of his chest, blocking Jack the Ripper's two black knives 10 centimeters away from the front of his abdomen. Yejing reacted quickly. When he saw the second black knife, he already took a defensive posture. But unfortunately, this step he took seemed to have been seen through by Jack the Ripper. Just when the golden knife reached the two black knives that shone with dark light, Jack the Ripper suddenly changed his moves. The black knife in his right hand suddenly shook hard, knocking Yejing and the knife in his right hand away at the same time. However, he has two knives, but Yejing only has one. After the golden sword, the only defensive weapon, opened, Yejing's abdomen opened wide. Two knives are used to disembowel the body. I don't know if one can achieve this effect. At the same time, Jack the Ripper's muttering to himself came from under the black robe. Is this a professional killer? As expected, it was extraordinary. Whether it was adaptability or neural reaction speed, it was much higher than Yejing. Especially in terms of making the most correct choice at the most incorrect time, Yejing could not compare. In terms of combat experience alone, he crushed Yejing several times. Facing the black knife only a few inches away from his abdomen, Yejing did not panic at all, but showed a mysterious smile. In the past few days, the passive skills in the furnace seem to be alive, and they can be automatically triggered at critical moments. When attacked, an intermediate passive counterattack will be triggered, with an automatic reaction. At this moment, Yejing felt as if his body no longer belonged to him. He seemed to be watching his body move from God's perspective. Automatic counterattack. The passive skills will do the actions that Yejing can't do by himself, and the choices that Yejing can't make, the passive skills will do by himself. From the perspective of a bystander, he saw that his body seemed to have lost gravity and fell backwards. The moment he fell to the ground, he raised his legs high and kicked Ripper. Jack's black knife kicked the knife in his hand away. Impossible. A cry of surprise came from under the black robe, and Jack the Ripper looked shocked, unable to understand why the inevitable knife was dodged. Why is this happening? How could he fall to the ground faster than my knife? It's obviously only a few inches away. In his eyes, just as he was about to insert another black knife into Yejing's abdomen, Yejing's body suddenly fell to the ground. There was no warning, and even the speed of falling to the ground and air resistance were ignored. It takes a second for a normal person to go from standing upright to falling down, right? However, in Jack the Ripper's eyes, Yejing's body collapsed in just a blink of an eye. It's as if all the intermediate processes have been omitted. There are only two shots and two frames, one standing upright and one falling to the ground. This is so inconsistent with the rules of the universe. After the automatic counterattack, Yejing took over his body again, which means that he did not know what Jack the Ripper was thinking, otherwise he would definitely laugh out loud. There is nothing wrong with you talking about the rules of this universe with the furnace from another universe. Bar. Gray, pick it up. Coming. The black knife, which was kicked 10 meters high by Yejing, had not yet landed, but Gray kicked it dozens of meters away like a ball. At the same time, Yejing also took advantage of this gap to distance himself from Jack the Ripper. After these two thrilling confrontations, his back was soaked with sweat. Fighting against a killer who majored in killing techniques put him under tremendous pressure, both mentally and physically. Since there were 3 people surrounding him, there was no need to risk his life. Yejing took a sneak peek at his own shadow and thought to himself that Ai Zayakui was really holding her breath. Seeing that I was about to be stabbed, she didn't show up. She was waiting for a fatal blow. Ai Zayakui has been lurking in Yejing's shadow, never showing a breath. In Jack the Ripper's eyes, he was surrounded by 2 people. He didn't know that there was another person waiting for a finishing blow. After a brief period of shock, Jack the Ripper had recovered. His eyes were fixed on the retreating Yejing, and he suppressed his previous doubts in his heart. With a slight shake of his left hand, he held another black knife in his hand. So what if it's kicked away? I still have a dozen of these mass-produced weapons. Jack the Ripper pursed his lips and muttered to himself. His originally relaxed nerves became tense. Like Yejing, he also underestimated the enemy before the battle and did not take Yejing and Gray seriously. Inside. But after 2 misses, he felt that things were not as simple as he thought. It looks like it's about to overturn. Stupid people have stupid ways, and smart people have smart ways. He is able to survive to this day because he has his own unique way of survival. Just like now. Jack the Ripper secretly made a judgment in his heart. By comparing the strength of both sides, he judged that he had a chance of death. Although this probability was very small, it still made him make another decision. Run away. Not every villain stands and lets the decent people kill him. A gleam flashed in Jack the Ripper's dark eyes, and the black robe covering his body suddenly lifted up and was thrown high by him, covering Yejing. While throwing out the black robe for cover, his arm suddenly exerted force, using all his strength to throw out the 2 black knives in his hands. One shot directly at Yejing, and the other was smashed by him at Gray in the sky. Then, turn around and run. Throwing the robe, throwing the knife, turning around and running away, a set of actions were done in one go, as if they had been practiced beforehand. Yejing cut the black robe covering him in half with a knife, and dodged the flying black knife. When he looked at Jack the Ripper again, he almost cursed. He actually ran away. Do you still have any dignity? All the villains with dignity are dead. Yejing was blocked twice and was a step slower. When he started to chase, Jack the Ripper had already run out of the alley and turned the corner. Gray, catch up. Gray, who had been watching from above, was also hit by Jack the Ripper's sudden attack and almost stabbed his wings. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 257. Want to run? It's not that easy. Gray glanced at the scratched wings and felt a trace of anger in his heart. He stretched out his wings and flew towards the escaping Jack the Ripper. Unlike the 2 of them who were attacked, when Jack the Ripper turned around and ran away, Ai Zayakui had already escaped from Yejing's shadow and chased after him first. Less than a minute into the battle between the 2 sides, the situation changed from a close assault station to a pursuit battle, which they did not expect. Yejing's speed was the worst. He was 1 step slower, 1 step slower and 1 step slower. He could no longer see the target in his sight. If Gray hadn't been guiding him from the sky, he would have lost the target. What else can you do besides flying? Shoot him with feathers. Yejing pulled further and further away, and couldn't help but become anxious, and shouted fiercely at Gray who was flying in the sky. Do I have to use feathers? Gray stared closely at Jack the Ripper fleeing in the alley, hesitating a little. He had already used his wings as weapons. Every feather on the wings was refined, very precious, and disposable. Once you unplug it, you can't plug it back in again. He glanced at Jack the Ripper, who was running faster and faster, and then at Yejing, who was getting further and further away. He gritted his teeth, endured the pain, and plucked a white feather from his wing. Just one, just this one. The bow and arrow of the god of light. Gray pinched the feathers gently with 2 fingers, and made a move with his other hand. Light spiritual energy surged out from his body crazily, and dots of light illuminated himself, like a humanoid light bulb. The flickering aura condensed, slowly forming a shining bow and arrow. The bow was about 1 meter long. The bow body and bow string were completely composed of light aura, as if it were illusory and had no sense of reality. But even if there is no entity, Yejing, who is chasing below, can clearly feel the fiery energy emanating from the bow and arrow. This is not a bow, but a little sun. Also, I have never heard that the god of light uses a bow and arrow. Gray gently placed the feathers on the bowstring. The moment they touched each other, the feathers turned into an arrow of light, a light arrow containing terrifying energy. The combination of the bow and the light arrow revealed a powerful power that made Jack the Ripper's face change drastically when he was 100 meters away. He was being targeted and felt a strong sense of crisis in his heart. If you get hit by this arrow, you may die. His trembling body told him so. What to do? Jack the Ripper looked up at Gray, who was bending his bow and aiming at him. A trace of cruelty flashed in his eyes. With a flip of his hand, he threw out dozens of black knives. He stood in the air and waited quietly. Instruction. Go. With Jack the Ripper's finger, the sky full of black knives pointed directly at Gray, who was bending his bow. Dozens of black knives, wrapped in infinite dark light, shot directly at Gray. A murderous counterattack. The black knives in the sky turned into black light and shot at Gray from the front. No matter it was up, down, left, or right, the space was completely sealed. There is no room for escape. Careful. Yejing was shocked when he saw the black meteors shooting towards Gray. He threw his golden knife out without hesitation, trying to block several meteors for Gray. I'm not just good at making soy sauce. Gray was facing dozens of black meteors when he suddenly looked up to the sky and roared angrily. He moved his fingers slightly and plucked the feathers from his wings one by one. He pulled off 6 feathers in succession, with a very distressed look on his face. Now that it was pulled down, there was no way to push it back. Gray felt fierce and integrated all 6 feathers into the light arrow. 6 + 1 = 7. This is my last resort. The energy contained in the light arrow, which was integrated with the 6 new feathers, instantly increased to an unimaginable height. It was so powerful that even the slightest cracks appeared on the bow and arrow. The bow is going to break. Gray relaxed his fingers. Whoosh! The light arrow with majestic power was shot out instantly. This is an arrow. No, it's a light. A light that could illuminate 100 miles in radius fell from the sky. The dozens of black lights thrown out by Jack the Ripper looked very small under this light, and there was nowhere to hide the darkness in the light and shadow. This is the real meteor falling from the sky. A ray of light pierced the sky. Swish, swish, swish. The sound of breaking through the sky was deafening, as if the fragile space had been torn apart. Dozens of black lights were as brittle as paper in front of this light and shattered instantly. Vulnerable. A huge beam of light fell diagonally from the sky, and the dazzling light shone on Jack the Ripper's black pupils. Only the reflected light remained in his pupils. It flashed by. The speed of light is so fast that no one in the underground palace realm can react. Fleeting. The light lasted less than a second from its appearance to its disappearance. Darkness once again covered the entire 19th district. What happened? Jack the Ripper lowered his head in confusion, and a bloody hole the size of a bowl appeared in front of his chest. Behind him, a bottomless pit appeared. Pass through. Tick tick tick, blood dripped on the ground like running water, and the blood flow continued. Is this why villains die from talking too much? I'm obviously talking to myself. Jack the Ripper fell to the ground. Yejing was stunned by Gray's arrow. He stood there stupidly, his hands and feet were cold, and he kept asking himself, can he avoid this arrow? Can you survive this arrow? Obviously, impossible. Not even the slightest possibility. His eyes couldn't keep up with the speed of the light. Yejing said in a daze, "Are you the legendary son of destiny?" Gray, who was already exhausted in the sky, heard this and said expressionlessly, "Do you know how much this arrow is worth?" 700,000 spirit stones. His feather was obtained from the Edward family's treasure house after breaking through the underground palace realm. Almost one feather consumed 100,000 spirit stones. Yejing, dot. It's cruel. This is not an arrow, but money. The big moves of rich people are different, powerful, and gorgeous, and I can't afford it. Aizayakui, who had been lurking in the shadows and waiting for an opportunity, appeared and looked at Jack the Ripper, who was dying with a blank expression. "I haven't made a move yet, why did you fall down?" This time, it's not Gray who is just playing soy sauce, but her. This arrow shot out all of Gray's strength and spiritual energy. He was exhausted and slowly fell from the sky. Now he was powerless. The three of them stood in front of Jack the Ripper, who had a hole in his chest. Yejing patted Gray on the shoulder and said with a smile, "You are the first to do this." Gray thought about his loss and couldn't even laugh. Can 700,000 spiritual stones be reimbursed? Sorry, no. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 258. The three of them arrived in front of Jack the Ripper, who was dying with his eyes wide open. Yejing carefully used the golden knife to scrape the corpse twice, fearing that he would jump up again. Did he die so easily? It shouldn't be like this. Yejing was puzzled. He really didn't expect that Jack the Ripper would be shot through the heart by Gray's arrow. He thought there would be a fierce battle, or at least a pursued battle, but who knew that it was over before it even started? But it might be normal. After all, Jack the Ripper was just a small follower, and the real Black Hand was still hidden behind. Easy. Hearing Yejing's mumbling, Gray's face turned green, rolled his eyes, and said unhappily, "I have thrown down 700,000 spirit stones, and you only said 2 words simple? Am I wronged?" Yes, I said the wrong thing." Yejing was speechless and apologized quickly. It's really not easy to kill a person in the underground palace realm with 700,000 spirit stones. So, what should I do next? The three of them gathered in front of Jack the Ripper's body, looked at each other, and fell silent. The mission was considered completed, but how to submit the mission was a difficult problem. They couldn't just say that the mission was completed, and the mission was completed. There must be some proof. But if they took someone's body to hand in the task, they always felt a little weird and a little creepy. Just when they were silent, Aizayakui suddenly said, "Why don't we divide him up? I'll take the head to the Pioneer Guild to hand in the mission, and you take the body to the Academy to hand in the mission. Is that okay?" As she said that, a half-moon green blade appeared in her hand, and she waited for the two to agree to start dismembering the body. Yejing, dot. Gray, dot. We are not arguing about how to distribute the body. We are arguing about what to use as proof to hand in the task. Yejing felt that Aizayakui's brain circuit might be different from theirs. She was silent because she didn't want to use the body as proof. Yejing sighed and said helplessly, "Don't move the body yet, let's find out if he has any ID on him first." Yejing squatted down, fumbled around Jack the Ripper with both hands, and found a storage bracelet in his shirt pocket. "This thing is his legacy, let's divide it." Yejing didn't wait for the two to reply, and directly opened the storage bracelet and poured out all the things inside. Thousands of spirit stones, plus some broken copper and iron, gone. Yejing looked at the pile of rubbish on the ground and said blankly, "Gone? That's all? A killer in the underground palace realm has only this little belonging." Gray's eyes only stayed on these rubbish for less than a second, and then moved away. He interrupted and said, "Don't forget, didn't he throw out dozens of black knives before? Those are all his belongings, but they were all broken by me. Okay, there's no need to think about the legacy." Yejing picked up the rubbish with a wave of his hand, and fumbled around Jack the Ripper's waist for a few more times. "Wait. There's something." His fingers suddenly froze, and he pulled out a palm-sized dark gold plate from behind the corpse. Yejing gently rubbed the material of the dark gold plate, and was instantly overjoyed. "This is a plate made of pure black gold." Pure black gold. These three moments attracted the attention of Gray and Ai Zayakui, especially Ai Zayakui, whose eyes were shining brightly, staring at the dark gold plate in Yejing's hand. Sure enough, the only thing that could interest Ai Zayakui was money. Black gold is considered a medium to high-end metal material, and is generally sold by gram. Yejing weighed the black gold plate in his hand twice, which was about 100 grams, and was worth about 100 or 200,000 spirit stones. Just based on this, their work tonight was not in vain. "Don't touch it, take a look at what's written on it." Gray just couldn't stand Yejing's rustic look, and after curling his lips, he urged, "What's the hurry?" Yejing stood up, holding the black gold plate, and frowned and looked up in the light of the moon. At the same time, Ai Zayakui and Gray also leaned over and looked at the black gold plate in Yejing's hand with curiosity. On the front of the black gold plate, there was a picture engraved, a very clear picture, probably a picture of an angel with 8 wings nailed to the wall by a spear. Seeing this picture, Gray couldn't help but shudder, muttering, "With wings, is this an angel or me?" "Don't flatter yourself, others are 4 pairs of 8-winged archangels, what about you? A pair of 2-winged birdman, can you compare?" Yejing couldn't help but said. Then, he turned the black gold plate over, and there were several characters engraved on the back. "What words?" Yejing frowned and read, "The third-class Jack title Ripper Black." "Black what?" "I can't see clearly, there is no light." Suddenly, in an instant, the only remaining trace of the moon in the sky was covered by dark clouds, and darkness fell, without a trace of light. "Gray, aren't you a light practitioner?" "Glow. I'm not a light bulb, can I just glow?" Gray muttered softly, and still separated a trace of spiritual energy from his body. With a flick of his finger, a ball of light appeared out of thin air, illuminating the surroundings. With the brightness of the ball of light, Yejing looked at the black gold plate again. The word black is a traditional Chinese character. What is this word? Yejing's face was full of black lines. He didn't recognize the words engraved on the top. "I'll do it." Gray was speechless. Just as he was about to grab the black gold plate in Yejing's hand, a voice suddenly came from behind. "That word is pronounced Shen, the god of the Black God Society." Without any sign or breath, the sudden voice made the 3 people's faces change drastically, their nerves tensed instantly, and they all turned their heads. Less than 10 meters behind them, a person, a young man, appeared inexplicably at some time and from nowhere. The young man was very ordinary, with ordinary looks, ordinary figure, and ordinary breath, just like a passerby who would be lost in the crowd in the next second. The young man had a faint smile on his face, and a pair of thin glasses in front of his black eyes, just like a college student who could be seen everywhere. But it was such a seemingly ordinary person that made Yejing and the other 2 look solemn, as if they were facing a great enemy. Less than 10 meters away, there was no sound at all, and no breath was leaked at all, as if he appeared out of thin air, and none of the 3 of them could sense his existence. Just based on this point, it was not something the 3 of them could deal with. Ai Zyakoi moved her feet expressionlessly. She moved first, her figure turned, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. She turned into a ball of shadow, stuck to the wall, and moved quickly and irregularly, trying to get out of the sight of the unknown young man. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 259. Come out. The unknown young man glanced sideways at Ai Zyakoi's dark figure and uttered two words lightly. The two words were like words, containing the power of heaven and earth as vast as the sea, and they instantly pressed towards Ai Zyakoi's dark shadow. The power of heaven and earth. This is exclusive to the Destiny realm. The unknown young man in front of me is undoubtedly a strong man in the Destiny realm. Puff. There was a muffled sound. Ai Zyakoi broke the trick. A black shadow suddenly shot out from the wall, as if it had been hit by a huge boulder, and fell in front of Yejing and the others. Ahem. Ai Zyakoi crawled on the ground, with a look of pain on her face. She coughed twice and a mouthful of blood spurted out. She tried to struggle to get up, but she couldn't get up. She had obviously suffered serious internal injuries. Hiss. When Yejing saw this scene, he took a deep breath and his eyes almost popped out. When did Ai Zyakoi become so fragile? Just 2 words from someone else's mouth caused Ai Zyakoi to be seriously injured. What kind of terrifying power is this? Yejing's eyes were fixed on the unknown young man who was less than 10 meters away from them. After taking a deep breath, he exhaled it again. As if he had made up his mind, he stepped forward and stood up to Ai Zyakoi, who fell to the ground. In front of him, he said in a deep voice, "Take Ai Zyakoi and run quickly. Find reinforcements." He didn't even dare to blink. He kept his gaze on the unknown young man, not daring to slack off for fear that the 3 of them would be killed instantly with just a blink of an eye. Not only that, he is also ready to take out the hidden sun essence from the furnace and explode it at any time. Facing this truly invincible enemy, only by self-destructing the sun essence can there be a chance of survival. Hearing Yejing's sacrificial speech, Gray was shocked and his eyes were red. He gritted his teeth and stood next to Yejing. He stared at the unknown young man fiercely and said firmly, "There has never been a deserter in our Edward family. I want to die. Let's die together." Awe-inspiring righteousness. But Yejing had a black look on his face. He was going to die? "If you miss, die yourself." "I don't want to die." On his own, he could still use self-destruction of sun essence as the last resort, but if Gray and Ai Zyakoi were around, he wouldn't dare to use it. After all, the sun essence may not be able to blow up the terrifying enemy in front of him, but it can definitely kill Gray and Ai Zyakoi. Thinking of this, Yejing pushed Gray away and roared, "If you are asked to run away with Ai Zyakoi, just run away." What nonsense! If you can fly, hurry back to the tavern to find rescuers. There is a way to resist my own words a while. Oh! Suddenly, the unknown young man who had been silent as if watching a clown's performance suddenly became interested. He stretched out his slender and traceless hand, adjusted the temples of his glasses, and looked at Yejing with interest. "I can hear that, what you are telling the truth. I am very curious, how can you, a little monk who has just stepped into the underground palace, be so confident that you can stop me?" Yejing pulled his stiff face and showed an extremely ugly smile. "You want to know, can't you just give it a try?" After that, he yelled at Gray, who was stunned on the spot, "What are you waiting for? Take Ai Zyakoi and run away." Gray also heard what the unknown young man said. He looked at Ai Zyakoi, who was lying on the ground, and felt cruel. He bent down and picked up Ai Zyakoi, spread his wings and flew up into the sky. He chose to believe Yejing. However, the current situation is not one where he can run away if he wants. I have to ask the unknown young man who suddenly appeared if he would agree. "You can actually fly. But it's the same. If you want to run away after killing someone from our Black God Society, don't dream about it. The unknown young man looked at Gray, who was soaring into the sky, and couldn't help but sneered. His eyes under the black-framed glasses were full of mockery. I saw him slowly raising a hand, spreading his palm, with the back of the palm facing up and the palm facing down, and pressed lightly. Following the action of the unknown young man laying his hands, the originally calm sky suddenly changed. The floating dark clouds suddenly surged violently. The dark clouds in the sky formed a huge cloud palm covering dozens of meters, and pressed down on Gray. This is the irresistible power of heaven and earth. Gray's pupils shrank sharply as he looked at the huge cloud palm that smashed down, with a horrified expression. Under the huge cloud palm that covered dozens of meters, his body was as small as an ant, and he could be crushed to death in minutes. At the critical moment, Gray Bayou's wings suddenly burst into light, and the brilliant and dazzling light tightly wrapped his and Aizayakoi's bodies. Useless. Gray's last light defense was shattered like paper under Xuanhuan's palm, making it vulnerable to a single blow. The whole person was directly photographed from the sky by Yunzhang. There was a loud bang. Earth-shattering. The building with a radius of 100 meters was completely shattered, and a huge palm print 2 meters deep was pressed on the ground. Gray curled up in the palm print, tightly protecting Aizayakoi under his body, and his own body was already in pieces. Covered in blood. Their lives and deaths are unknown. A huge cloud palm covering dozens of meters was printed next to Yejing. I don't know whether the unknown young man did it intentionally or unintentionally. It was almost impossible to capture Yejing. Yejing stared at the huge palm prints printed on the ground. His whole body was frightened, his heart was shaking, his legs were shaking uncontrollably, and the blood in his body seemed to be cold. Is this a casual blow from a strong man in the Destiny realm? It's not on the same level at all. The Underground Palace realm and the Destiny realm are completely different. Now, let me see where your confidence comes from. The unknown young man didn't even move his feet, just stood at the position where he first appeared, looking at Yejing with a smile. If he wasn't curious about the source of Yejing's confidence, perhaps this palm would have killed Yejing as well. Yejing looked at Gray, who was covered in blood in the depths of the palm print and whose life and death were unknown. A strong anger suddenly surged in his heart. The burning anger rushed straight to his brain and turned into fierce killing intent. Yejing suppressed the fear in his heart, and his dark eyes looked at the unknown young man who regarded human life as a toy, bursting with fierce murderous intent. As he turned his hand, a ball of light as bright and hot as the sun appeared above his palm. The ball of light was wrapped in spiritual energy and floated lightly in the air. Sun essence. The unknown young man's face changed slightly when he saw the sun essence in Yejing's hand, but he returned to his calm appearance in the next second, looking at Yejing with a sneer. Is this your confidence? Although it's a bit unexpected, do you think you can kill me with the sun essence? I'm telling you, it's impossible. Even if you sacrifice your life and the lives of those 2 flies, you can't die with me. The unknown young man said lightly, as if he was stating a fact. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 260. Perhaps the explosive power of the sun essence can affect him, or even cause harm, but if it is a matter of mutual destruction, then this is impossible. After all, everyone has some trump cards in their hands, and they all have big moves that can protect themselves when facing a crisis. Yejing took out the sun essence just to deter the unknown young man who suddenly appeared, but now looking at his appearance, there is no trace of panic, which makes him feel cold in his heart. There is no way. Is it really going to be here today? Yejing gritted his teeth in his heart. Is the sun essence really going to explode? He still has War of Sorrow on him, which can withstand the power of the sun essence's self-explosion, and even use the impact of the explosion to escape from here. But Yejing looked back at Gray and Aizayakoi, who were unconscious in the palm pit. If the sun essence exploded, then these two people would definitely die. What should I do? Yejing fell into a state of entanglement and hesitation, holding the sun essence in his hand, in a dilemma. You won't blow it up? If you don't blow it up, then I'll come. The unknown young man sneered, and when he turned his palm, the sky and the earth changed color. The black gold plate that Yejing had hung on his waist suddenly shook, and flew towards the unknown young man with a whoosh. The god-killing plate of the Black God Society cannot be dirty by the hands of ants. He grabbed the black gold plate in his hand, and gently touched the back of the plate with 2 fingers, and the identity of Jack the Ripper engraved on the back was directly smoothed out. Since he is dead, he no longer belongs to the god-killing warrior of the Black God Society. Black-hearted man. Yejing saw it in his eyes, and even took away the identity of his own men after death. He was really cruel. Okay, the matter is done. Since you don't blow it up, then I will come in person. The unknown young man put the black gold plate into his sleeve, looked at Yejing calmly, and his footsteps moved slightly, and the whole person disappeared on the spot. What? Yejing's pupils shrank sharply, and no human figure could be seen in his sight, as if it disappeared out of thin air. Unconsciously, the solar essence in his hand tightened again. The next second, the figure of the unknown young man suddenly appeared less than 2 meters in front of him. Since you can't bring yourself to explode, let me help you. The unknown young man suddenly appeared in front of Yejing and said calmly. He slowly raised his hand, and the palm contained the terrifying power of heaven and earth, and grabbed the solar essence in Yejing's hand. Move. Yejing roared in his heart, thinking about taking the solar essence back into the furnace, but found that neither his body nor his mind could move. The body and mind were completely controlled. Damn it! Yejing's eyes widened, and his whole body could not move. He could only watch the unknown young man's hand grab the solar essence. He actually wanted to actively crush the solar essence. Isn't he afraid? Isn't he afraid of hurting himself? As if knowing his thoughts, the unknown youth said lightly, just a little solar essence can't hurt me. His hands were very white and tender. His hands without any flaws moved slowly in front of Yejing's eyes. He could do the action in an instant, but he did it very slowly, moving little by little, which made Yejing's heart sink into the abyss. It's over. Yejing looked desperate. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't get out of the control of the young man and couldn't move his body. Remember it even in hell. It's you who killed your friend. I just went with the flow. The unknown youth seemed like a demon. Even at this moment of death, he had to give Yejing a psychological shadow. Under the gaze of Yejing's desperate eyes, the palm of the unknown youth, which contained the power of heaven and earth, was covered with the solar essence. He exerted force on his hand. When he was about to crush the solar essence, his face suddenly changed. It was empty. The unknown youth exerted force on his hand and was about to crush the solar essence, but he was empty the next second. There was no sense of reality, as if he had grabbed the air. Space fluctuations. Who? A trace of haze flashed in the eyes of the unknown young man, and he suddenly shouted coldly. Yejing, who was originally in front of him, was just like a horizontal shift. He was still in front of him the previous second, but the next second he was already 10 meters away. Black God, bullying my young generation, isn't it a bit of bullying? A voice came from the sky, a voice for help. The moment the voice fell, Yejing's eyes turned, and the power of the world that the unknown young man pressed on him was broken. I can move. After hearing the voice, Yejing knew that the 3 of them were saved. It was during this gap that Yejing hurriedly collected the essence of the sun into the furnace. In his sight, a person walked quietly from a distance, first 1,000 meters away, and in the blink of an eye, he was within 100 meters. A figure flashed and appeared in front of Yejing, standing in front of Yejing like a mountain, blocking him behind. Yejing saw it, and the young man called Black God also saw it. Black God's eyes were filled with murderous intent, his expression was as cold as ice, and he said in a cold voice, "Chief of the Demon Academy, Jizukiu, I didn't expect to meet you here." Jizukiu did not come empty-handed, he was holding a sword in his hand, a silver rapier, a gentleman's sword. This was the first time Yejing saw Jizukiu take out his weapon. It seemed that the young man named Black God in front of him had put a lot of pressure on Jizukiu. Jizukiu did not look at Black God, but looked at Yejing first. After looking him up and down, he smacked his lips and said, "It turned out to be so embarrassing, but it's good, at least I survived." Yejing smiled bitterly, "Fortunately, I used the essence of the sun to deter it and delayed it for a few seconds." Jizukiu smiled and shook his head, "The explosive power of the essence of the sun can threaten the general destiny realm, but in front of Black God, it has no effect at all." "That's right." Yejing sighed, and suddenly thought of the two people in the palm pit. His face turned pale and he said anxiously, "By the way, Gray and Ai Zayakui were seriously injured. Go to treat them quickly." "It's okay, they won't die." Jizukiu said lightly. He took out 2 bottles of golden potions and threw them to Yejing. "Give them both this to drink." "Yes." Yejing responded, looking at the gloomy Black God not far away, and said, "Be careful." After that, he ran towards the palm pit, as someone was waiting for him to save their lives. Yejing hurried to Gray and Ai Zayakui, bent down and poured the golden liquid medicine into them. The breathing sound that was still lingering at first became stable in an instant. Huh! Finally, a dog's life was saved. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 261. After all, Jizukiu arrived at the critical moment, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. At least Yejing would not be able to escape unscathed, let alone Gray and Ai Zayakui. Yejing broke into a cold sweat when he thought about how the sun essence was almost exploded by the young man named Haishan. Once the sun essence exploded, he himself would not die, but Gray and Ai Zayakui would definitely die. This means that he indirectly killed the two of them, and they will live in a psychological shadow for the rest of their lives. Sensing that Gray and Ai Zayakui's weak breaths had calmed down, Jizukiu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Although he didn't show it on his face, he was still worried about them. Yejing and the others were lucky. As soon as he arrived at the stronghold in District 19, he saw cloud palms forming in the sky. He knew something was wrong, so he rushed over as quickly as possible. When he saw Yejing holding a piece of sun essence in his hand, he was also shocked. He didn't expect that Yejing still had this kind of high-level energy in his hand, and it almost exploded. It was also because of his elemental system that he could move Yejing away without anyone noticing. Otherwise, he would have no chance to stop the Black God from crushing the essence of the sun. Facing that young man, Jizukiu regained his usual relaxed and unhurried expression, and in an instant he put on a solemn look. He held the silver rapier in one hand and said in a deep voice, "As the new chief of the Black God Association, wouldn't it be too much to bully our children?" Black God took off the black glasses on his ears with one hand, revealing the hidden unruly eyes. The corners of his mouth raised slightly, showing a mocking look. "What? Can't you do it?" "Of course not." Jizukiu said calmly, "Perhaps, in a few years, they will defeat you, but now, it is not possible." After that, the silver sword in his hand trembled slightly, and a silver mark was drawn on the ground. The silver mark was more than 10 meters long, completely separating them from the Black God. "You also know, right? It's not time to start the war yet. If you really want to fight, walk across this line and I will fight with you." Black God looked down at the silver mark on the ground, his face uncertain, as if he was struggling with something, and he also knew that now was not the time for the two sides to start a war. But, Jizuki drew this line, which was clearly a provocation, provoking him not to dare to start a war rashly. This war does not refer to a fight between Jizuki and Haishin, but a real war. Black God is the chief of the Black God Association, and Jizuki is the chief of the Demon Academy. Both of them are already representatives of the younger generations of the two major forces. Once the two of them make a move, it will affect the whole body. What's more, the current situation is complicated and confusing, with undercurrents surging. The entire Demon City is waiting for news about the first expeditionary force, whether on the surface or on the dark side. No one knows what is going on over there on Pluto, and no one knows what is going on with the first expeditionary force. In the silence, everyone was waiting for the latest news, and no force dared to take action rashly. Jizuki also took a fancy to this, and was sure that the Black God did not dare to fight with him, so he drew a silver mark to force him away. After all, Black God didn't want to fight, and neither did he. Call. Suddenly, He Shen let out a long sigh of relief and laughed. His smile was very bright. He lightly touched the ground with his finger, and the silver mark on the ground was wiped away instantly. That's right, I don't dare to take action, but you don't dare to take action either, so let's just say goodbye today. There will be a battle soon. I hope you can let me enjoy it to the fullest. After Black God finished speaking, he swung his figure and turned around. Before he disappeared from sight, he left another sentence, which shocked Ye Jing's face to change drastically. You three, you have killed the god-killing warrior of the Black God Guild. This matter has been settled. Wait for the Black God Guild to pursue you until death. A pursuit to the death? Ye Jing's face changed drastically after hearing this. He had just escaped from one crisis and entered another crisis. He saw the words on the god-killing card. A person as strong as Jack the Ripper was the third-class god-killing warrior. So what was the strength of the second-class and first-class warriors? It's definitely not an intensity he can handle. Well. Ye Jing looked at the unconscious Gray and Ai Zyakui on the ground, and couldn't help but sigh, what kind of evil was this? It was obvious that he just came out to do a small task, but why did he provoke such a mysterious behemoth? After that, the peaceful days were gone forever. Jizuki saw Ye Jing's frowning face and couldn't help but chuckle, you are extremely lucky to escape from the Black God's hands alive. So don't sigh and take them two back to the tavern to recuperate. Yes, it's pretty good to be alive. When Ye Jing thought about the terrifying power of heaven and earth before, he felt frightened all over. On the way back, Ye Jing used spiritual energy to wrap the bodies of Gray and Ai Zyakui and float them beside him. Jizuki walked in front of him. During the silent return journey, Ye Jing suddenly asked, who is that Black God? What kind of organization is the Black God Association? He just remembered that when he was in the belly of the white whale, he encountered two enemies. Those two people called themselves the Black God Society, but they were a little weaker. Black God, does Black God know how to do it? Jizuki sighed and said, the Black God Society is the largest dark force hidden in the Demon City. Whether it is the bottom or the top, its strength far exceeds that of most of the group forces in the Demon City, and it can even compete with the Demon Academy. Of course, this is without counting the old Dean. You probably know a little about the strength of the Black God Society. Let's talk about the God Killer Warriors. The God Killer Warriors of the Black God Society are divided into first, second, and third levels. The underground palace realm below the fifth level is the third level warrior, and the fifth level and above are the second level warriors. Only the Destiny realm is the first level warrior. Scary, right? The backbone of Blue Star, the Destiny realm is only a first level warrior in the Black God Society, and there are 3 teams like the God Killer Army in the Black God Society. The Destiny Realm is just a warrior. Yejing felt as if a huge stone was pressed on his heart, and his heart was bottomless. My God, if he is targeted by such a dark force, is it possible to survive? Yejing said with despair, I am just a person who has just entered the underground palace. I should not be taken seriously by the Black God, right? Maybe he will forget it after he goes back. He asked like this, and then looked at Jizukiu expectantly, wanting to get the answer he wanted from him. What a pity. Jizukiu shook his head, don't worry, the Black God has a good memory. He will definitely send people to hunt you down after he goes back. I suggest you stay in the demon court with Gray for the time being, and don't go out and wander around. Yejing. Isn't this a coward? Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 262. Back in the tavern, the uncle was sleeping drunkenly on the bar. Ji Qingjian was sitting on a chair with her legs crossed, leaning against the pillar and playing with her mobile phone. When she saw Yejing carrying the unconscious Gray and Ai Zayakui back, she was instantly startled. The phone in her hand fell to the ground with a bang. She ran over with a panicked look on her face and asked in a panic, "What's the matter, what happened? Is Sister Zayakui seriously injured?" Ji Qingjian caught Ai Zayakui floating in the air. When she saw the blood on the front of Ai Zayakui's clothes, tears almost came down. She cried and said, "Who did this? Why don't you ask your brother Gray how he's injured?" Yejing said with a speechless expression, "That's it if you offend the boss. Hurry and prepare a room for the 2 of them to recuperate. I guess they won't be able to wake up in a while." Yejing and Ji Qingjian hurriedly carried the Gray Ai Zayakui to the room in the backyard. Ji Qingjian also poured a basin of hot water very carefully and wiped the dust and dried blood from Ai Zayakui's face. "You should help Gray wipe it." The 2 of them drank the potion given by the chief, and it is estimated that they will be fine. The external injuries have been completely healed, leaving only the internal injuries. It is estimated that if they rest for a night, they will wake up the next day. A room with 2 beds and 2 half-dead people. Seeing Gray and Ai Zayakui sleeping, Ji Qingjian's originally frightened heart slowly calmed down. Yejing said, "Let's go back and have a rest. Let's come over and take a look tomorrow." Ji Qingjian shook her head and said stubbornly, "No, I'd better guard Sister Zayakui until she wakes up." She was still a little worried, afraid of something unexpected happening. Well, Ji Qingjian had been kissing Ai Zayakui since she was a child, so she naturally refused to let the unconscious Ai Zayakui go back to rest. Yejing didn't say anything more, arranged a room for herself, and walked in to rest. After returning to the room, Yejing remembered it and suddenly froze, wondering in his heart, where is the chief? The chief was walking in front of them along the way and was always in sight. Why did he suddenly disappear when he returned to the tavern? Could it be that he is busy again? What can you do in the evening? Does red sleeves add fragrance? Yejing shook his head and ignored it, lying on the bed in the guest room minding his own business. Thinking back to everything that happened tonight, Yejing couldn't get out of this breath, as if there was a 5-fingered mountain in his heart, which controlled all of his heart. Layers of dark clouds shrouded his heart, making him very uncomfortable. Although he killed an inexplicable god-killing warrior at night, he was beaten to the point where he couldn't even fight back. He has been reluctant to sell the Sun Essence, in order to deter the invincible people and leave an explosive trump card for himself. But what? What about the facts? Everything is his delusion. The self-destruction power of the Sun Essence may threaten the ordinary Destiny realm, but it is of no use to the truly powerful and the real bosses. The Black God I met before changed his face slightly after seeing the Sun Essence, but what about it? He just changed his face, but it was gone. He didn't even have the slightest hint of fear, and he even wanted to crush it himself. This little trick is of no use in front of a truly strong person. He also wanted to understand one thing. He used the energy explosion of the sun's essence as his trump card, but what? He wouldn't be able to part with a piece of sun essence from an enemy in the earth realm, but he might be able to escape from an ordinary destiny realm. But for the truly powerful destiny realm, this thing is useless at all. The truly powerful destiny realm comes from fighting all the way in the mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He uses the essence of the sun as his trump card, but similarly, the truly strong also have trump cards in their hands, and they also have trump cards that can protect themselves. After tonight, he finally understood that the essence of the sun that he had always regarded as a treasure was like worthless food, tasteless and a pity to throw away. Thinking of this, Yejing opened his eyes and looked at the ceiling in the darkness, sighing secretly in his heart. He was wrong. All external objects are not as strong as one's own strength. As long as you are strong and capable, do you still need to rely on self-exploding sun essence to save your life? Isn't this just giving up the basics and chasing the weak? It was because he knew he couldn't be killed by the explosion that he kept his confidence until the end. It is precisely because of this that the so-called true heart of a strong man is also lost. If you don't even have the heart to be strong, how can you talk about being strong? It's better to take advantage of the sun essence. Yejing secretly thought that as long as he took out the essence of the sun and his peace of mind disappeared, he could force his ambition to make progress. Thinking of this, Yejing entered the furnace space inexplicably. He looked at the furnace in front of him with all the creatures imprinted on it like a stupor. He sighed in his heart. This is his real trump card. Everything before was wrong. As long as you have energy, are you still afraid that your own strength will not be improved? When Gray wakes up, ask him to use the sun essence. Exchange a large amount of spiritual stones, whether it is 1 million spiritual stones or 5 million spiritual stones, and exchange them all into the furnace. Only by forging your own strength can you be strong. As long as you exchange energy into the furnace, even if you don't spend it, even if you don't use it, there will still be energy leaking out of the furnace, which can improve your own realm. In the end, you have to look at yourself. All external objects are nothingness. Yejing's dark eyes were as deep as an abyss, and there was something strange even in the darkness. In a daze, he fell into a deep sleep. Don't stop me. I'm going to kill them. Hum his ass. I'll hum their whole family. The next day, Yejing was awakened by the stupid pig-like scream. What's that sound? Yejing opened his eyes in a daze, frowned and muttered to himself, and the sound of slaughtering pigs next door filled his ears, making him very upset. Gray. What happened? It's so noisy so early in the morning, it's obvious that everything is fine, and it's obvious that the wound on the body has healed. Yejing muttered in dissatisfaction, packed up, slowly got up, and walked to the next room. As soon as he walked into the room, he was immediately scared. What is this for? In the room, Gray was seen holding the quilt in one hand and the pillow in the other, furious, exploding with anger, swinging the pillow like crazy. Ji Qinjian stood beside him, looking at Gray in panic, not knowing what to do. On the other side of the bed, Ai Xiaokui, who had always been cold, also looked at Gray helplessly, pursed her dry lips, and couldn't say anything. What's wrong? What's wrong? Gray, what are you crazy about? Yejing walked in and asked with a frown. I also realized that the protagonist I wrote was too aggrieved. From now on, I will try to change my writing style. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 263. When Gray saw Yejing walking in, he almost cried and shouted, Don't stop me. This young master is going to wipe out their black god society. Kill all their so-called god-killing warriors. Kill them all for him. Hummock. This young master is the eldest son of the Edward family. He owns nearly half of the aquatic products family in the whole water area. His network of connections is all over the blue star. Wherever he goes, big shots from powerful groups come out to greet him. Who has ever been so angry? No one has ever beaten me so badly in my life. My father and my ancestors have never beaten me like this. Hell, even my precious wings were almost pulled off last night. Damn it! Bang! With a muffled sound, Gray slammed the quilt and pillow on the bed with one hand, causing feathers to fly and rag fragments to fly. Gray was furious, his face filled with rage and rage. Yejing looked at Gray, who was going crazy, and was speechless. Weren't you beaten badly yesterday? You also want to clear out the Black God Society. Do you know how powerful they are? Gray sneered, his eyes full of murderous intent, and his expression extremely arrogant. Only today did Yejing remember that the person in front of him was not someone to be trifled with, but the eldest son and grandson of a big family. Gray suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, "No matter how powerful you are, can you still be more powerful than money? No matter how powerful you are, can you still be more powerful than money?" While he was talking, he glanced at Aizayakui, who was pale and bloodless and breathless, with even more murderous intent in his eyes. He had grown so old, and the only people he truly regarded as friends were Yejing and Aizayakui, especially Aizayakui. Zayakui, a friend of the opposite sex, was even more in his heart. You know, he does have friends of the opposite sex, but they are all friends in bed. Once the friend is in bed, they can no longer be friends. Can he not be angry when he sees Aizayakui being bullied so badly? Thinking of this, Gray suddenly calmed down, his eyes were as deep as the sea, and his tone was faint. No matter how powerful they are, aren't they just rats in the gutter? Aren't they just wandering around in the dark? I don't have any money, but my family has plenty. Gray said coldly, my family's aquatic products business has a monthly profit of hundreds of millions of spirit stones. If I can't beat them, can't I beat them with money? I'll go home in a moment. The Black God Guild is wanted across Blue Star. One person from the underground palace is 500,000 taels, and one is from the Destiny realm is 3 million taels. Let's see if they have any funds to spend with me. Yejing. Yejing had a big mouth and said dumbfounded, 50,000 taels is the underground palace realm, and 3 million taels is the Destiny realm. Are you sure you want to curse like this? Gray's grand gesture really shocked him. Oh my God, such a grand gesture could make all the pioneers in Blue Star go crazy. But Yejing asked doubtfully, are you sure you have to pay so much money? Can your family afford it? Gray said coldly, the eldest son and grandson of the family are going to be slaughtered, what else can you not do? After saying that, he turned over and stood up, walked to Aizayakui, took out a large push of gold and jade bottles from his storage bracelet and gently placed them beside Aizayakui's bed. These are holy medicines for healing. After drinking, the injury will be healed today. Aizayakui looked at the holy medicine beside the bed, hesitated slightly and then thanked softly. Afterwards, Gray paced the room and continued with a sullen face, there are 1 billion Blue Star monks, 800 million pioneers, people die for wealth and birds die for food. I don't believe they can't clear out their Black God Society. What kind of God-killing warrior? What kind of black god? Oh my God. You can't even beat me with money and you still want to kill gods. The Edward family is an upper-middle power in the Magic City, is it low? Not low. Just one family has squeezed into the high-level forces of the Demon City. Is this low? The Edward family was a family that existed when the Magic City was first established. It participated in the construction of the entire Magic City. It is a century-old family with unrivaled heritage. The network alone is enough to control most of Blue Star's power. The family is different from the power of large groups, has a small scope of influence, does not have so many enemies, and is on good terms with all blue stars. Not to mention anything else, when the Edward family patriarch celebrated his birthday 10 years ago, 8 of the top 10 major forces in Blue Star sent their senior officials to celebrate his birthday. This is the reason why the Edward family itself is not strong and only has one extraordinary person, but it has managed most of the aquatic products business and has been able to stand for hundreds of years. Gray said with a dark face, "A rat in the gutter, a rat in the gutter, can't get on the stage." This time, they have to bleed profusely. When Yejing heard this, he couldn't help but give him a thumbs up and sighed, "Awesome. If you have money, you are awesome." I thought to myself, this time the Black God Society might really be successful. Think about how arrogant Black God was yesterday, treating the 3 of them like ants. Then what? Yejing finally understood that he would rather offend the strong than the rich. Thinking of this, Yejing couldn't help but feel a little shocked. Gray had already taken action, could he still be left behind? It was just like this that Yejing took out the sun essence from the furnace without any warning. "Please help me get rid of the sun essence. I also need a lot of money urgently." Gray's eyes widened when he saw the sun essence appearing inexplicably in Yejing's hand, and the anger in his heart became even more intense. "I asked you several times before where the sun essence went. Didn't you say it wasn't in your hand? Why did you take it out again this time?" Yejing looked innocent. "I don't know much about it. It just appeared in my hands out of nowhere." "Forget it. Although the essence of the sun is not as good as the Omega light, it is also a high-level energy source. It should be worth a lot of spirit stones, right?" Gray collected the essence of the sun and hid it. Their family also lacked high-level energy. "I'll take this. I'll give it to you later and send the money over." After saying that, he suddenly remembered the Omega light that disappeared out of thin air on the small planetary fragments. His eyes widened. "Did you also take that Omega light for yourself?" Yejing hurriedly shook his head. "No, it's gone." "Don't mention that. It's long gone." Gray snorted and laughed, and didn't ask any more questions. He couldn't get anything out of asking any more questions. After taking Yejing's things, Gray said in a deep voice, "I'll leave today. I'll come back tomorrow. If I don't get rid of this bad breath, I'll be uncomfortable for the rest of my life." After saying that, he ran out of the room angrily. It seems that there will be no peace. Yejing shook his head secretly, and the murderous intention in his heart was no less than Gray. The Black God gave an order to send people to hunt him down, so let's see who has the better luck. Yejing's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and he sneered secretly in his heart, "Even if you don't send people to find me, I will take the initiative to find you. If I can't afford to offend the heavenly fate realm, can I not afford to offend the underground palace realm? Then let's see whether your god-killing warriors are stronger or we are stronger." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 264. On that day, Yejing did not go back to the college in the 3rd district or his small villa in the 4th district. He stayed directly in the tavern. He thought something might happen the next day. Really? The next morning, before Yejing got up, he was woken up by Gray's phone call. After a while of ringing, Yejing answered the phone and asked, "What's wrong?" Gray said in a gloomy tone, "Where are you? I'll pick you up." "Tavern, come here." After hanging up the phone, Yejing couldn't help but laugh. This guy moved very quickly. Everything was arranged in just one night. This may be a big family. They do things vigorously and resolutely. There are people above and below, and all they have to do is open their mouths and everything will be done. Yejing packed up and walked out of the room. In the tavern, Ai Zyakui was leaning against the pillar with her eyes closed, and Ji Qinjian was playing with her mobile phone with her head down. Yejing saw that Ai Zyakui's face was still a little pale and couldn't help but asked with concern, "How is it? Are the injuries on your body healed?" Ai Zyakui shook her head silently, her tone still a little weak. "There's still 3 points left, but it's almost there." She had withstood the Black God's blow last night. She had no external injuries, but she was full of internal injuries and her internal organs were shocked. Yejing wondered, "Then you go back and rest. Why are you sitting here? Come out with you." Yejing. Yejing was speechless. "How did you guess that I was going out? Do you still need to guess? The internet is going crazy." Ji Qinjian suddenly interrupted, then she jumped up to Yejing and handed her mobile phone to Yejing. "Look. What's wrong with this?" Yejing wondered, glancing at the phone. He wouldn't know it without looking at it. He was shocked when he saw it. Oh my God! There was such a big fuss in one night. It has been widely spread on Blue Star's Weibo that it has been dominated. The #1 hot search on Weibo, Edward family all Blue Star wanted Black God Society. The second most popular search on Weibo, 500,000 for an underground palace, 3 million for an extraordinary one. Is my life so valuable? The third hot search on Weibo, Moon Crescent City proposes to establish city-planet diplomatic relations with the Federation. The fourth hot search on Weibo, how did the Black God Society offend the Fishery King? 6 of the top 10 posts on Weibo were related to the Edward family and the Black God Society, and the entire Blue Star was shocked. Yejing's eyes widened when he saw it, and he couldn't help but murmured, "It made such a big fuss in one night." He scrolled through the Weibo below, and there were over 1 million comments from netizens. What is the Black God Club? How did you get into the Fishery King's business? Oh my God, 500,000 spiritual stones are in the underground palace realm. How come I don't know that my life is so valuable? The Black God Society seems to be an underground organization in the Demon City. I won't say more, I'm here for 3 million. The brother upstairs is awesome. He actually has the ability to fancy 3 million. Jianghu Baixiaosheng has started a business. He is selling all the information about the Black God Society, including the addresses of wanted persons. If you are interested, please join Chaoq Group 3441XXXXX. Not only the news was posted online, but even the Pioneers Guild openly posted a wanted notice. One night ago, the Black God Society, which almost no one except the Dark World knew about, became famous overnight. It's just that it doesn't want this name. Hee. Yejing couldn't help but sneer. The so-called Black God didn't expect this matter to be such a big deal. The Black God didn't know that with his careless palm last night, the sky of their Black God Association fell down. This incident also tells us that we should not offend anyone, especially rich people. It is estimated that within 2 days, the entire Black God Society will be revealed and exposed on the internet. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Yejing couldn't help but smack his lips, and couldn't help but feel a little moved. He couldn't get the 3 million from the Destiny Realm, but hunting the underground palace was still very possible. Is 500,000 spiritual stones a lot? Many. The former Li City Lord and the Changtian Deputy City Lord of the Changtian Group were given hush money of 500,000 spirit stones each after such a big event happened. Is 3 million spirit stones a lot? Yejing believes that since he reached the Destiny Realm now, the spiritual stones he has produced are not as many as 3 million. For an ordinary person in the Destiny Realm, 3 million would take at least 10 years to save, but to the Edward family, it was like wool. Even if 100 were killed, it would only be 300 million spirit stones. Generally, this kind of wanted order cannot be stated openly. At most, it can only be circulated secretly. But this time, the Federation did not care, and even seemed to fan the flames. Without the behemoth of the Federation to blow the wind, would this fire have erupted overnight? Maybe it's because the Demon City has been in a bit of chaos recently, plus there's been no news from the 1st Expeditionary Force, and next month there will be a joint battle between hundreds of institutes to select human elites. With so many big things happening together, the Federation probably wants to take this opportunity to stir up those people with ulterior motives in the dark world. Make a fuss, the bigger the fuss, the better. Yejing secretly laughed in his heart. The bigger the trouble, the less time the black gods would have to take care of them. Let them fish in troubled waters. About an hour later, Gray walked in with a proud look on his face and an extremely arrogant step. Gray was in high spirits. How's it going? Do you know everything? Yejing shook Ji Qingjian's mobile phone in his hand and said with a smile, I just found out, I was watching the fun online. What's the point of watching the fun online? Let's go. Come with me to District 6 to watch the fun. Gray waved and said. Yejing was confused. What? Isn't the 6th district a purely commercial area? What's the excitement? Districts 1 to 5 are the central area of the Demon City. The 6th area outside the central area is the largest commercial district in the entire Demon City. The bright and dark markets are spread throughout the entire area. More than 90% of the things in Blue Star can be found in the Demon City. It's sold here, and that's why the 6th district is the most visited district in the Magic City. Aren't we going to open a shop together? Just in time, we can do it together today. Gray's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and he said calmly, last night, we used our Edward family's intelligence network to check the Black God Society's stronghold in the Demon City. That shop happened to be one of them, so we fired it today, which is a good way to vent our anger first. Yejing was slightly startled. Copied? After copying, it belongs to us. Gray said matter-of-factly, of course, after copying it, will the Black God Club dare to take it back? That would be better, come and kill each one. Fierce. Money is coming in. Come on, let's hit the road. Ai Zyakoi stood up silently and walked directly out the door. Seeing this, Yejing looked at each other and said nothing. After last night, the three of them were holding their breath, just waiting for the hunting Black God in these 2 days to vent their anger. Higami and the others can't afford to offend him, so it's okay to just kill the little guy, right? Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 265. I'll go too. Seeing the three of them going out to have fun together, Ji Qingjian, who was bored at the side, became anxious and hurriedly chased them out. This. Gray looked at the little girl chasing out the door with a confused look on his face. Unsure of paying attention, he turned to look at Yejing. Yejing said indifferently, aren't you going to watch the excitement? If there is any danger, she can follow if she is willing. Gray came close to his face and whispered, no, after watching the fun, there is still business. I found out the coordinates of several areas from the information at home. If I don't go to vent my anger in person, we are still going to make a fuss. For it. Is there still life to be had in the future? Yejing was speechless, looking at the tearful Ji Qingjian, unable to be cruel, and turned to look at Ai Zyakoi. Ai Zyakoi remained silent for a moment and then said, I'll let her go back when the time comes. Ji Qingjian may not listen to what Yejing and Gray say, but she will definitely listen to what Ai Zyakoi says. Go out and watch the fun. Ji Qingjian quickly got into the car with a look of joy on her face. Get in the car. On the way, Yejing asked curiously, how much money did your family spend on wanted arrests? Gray wrote lightly, my grandfather only said 2 words. Which 2 words? No limit. Yejing. Not limited to these 2 words, it is really domineering. In a blink of an eye, in more than an hour, we arrived in the 6th district. When we entered the 6th district, We saw shops everywhere. Apart from the shops, there were large shopping malls and not a single residential building. On the streets and in the shops, most of the people walking in and out are practitioners wearing light armor and holding heavy weapons. Arrive. The car stopped and Gray said hello to get out. Yejing's eyes lit up and he said, "Which store is ours?" "Okay, shameless enough, it's already booked before it even starts." "Wait." Gray suddenly took out his cell phone and made a call. After the phone call, people came and went. In the vast sea of people, several burly men in purple clothes and holding long knives inexplicably emerged from the stalls on the side of the street. "Hello, Master Gray." 8 big men in purple stood on either side of Gray and the others, speaking in unison with tense faces. Gray coughed twice. "Where is your young master?" The man standing at the front, the big man in purple, said respectfully, "My young master is tired of waiting, so he went shopping." "Come right over." Yejing asked in a low voice, "Isn't this a member of your family?" "No," Gray said in a low voice, "How stupid am I to influence my own family so much? It will affect the business if people take pictures online. Do you still remember that Andy you met at the fighting arena before? He likes to do this kind of thing the most, just let him do it." "Andy?" Yejing remembered that in the Doran arena, Gray said that he was a vegetable seller, but if he could be compared with the Gray family, he probably took over half of Blue Star's vegetable business. Just as he said it, a handsome young man with blonde hair, sunglasses, and purple embroidered clothes walked out from the crowd. As soon as the young man stepped out, the 8 big men in purple uniformly gave way. Andy licked his hair and suddenly laughed evilly. "Are you waiting for me? Are you waiting for me?" Gray said dissatisfied, "Nonsense, all my friends are here. What are you doing with your ink?" "I'm just waiting for you to start." Andy sneered, "Don't talk nonsense. How could I not know that the matter is so big? The most low-key little ancestor of the Edward family was almost wiped out. Didn't you just want to bring my family into trouble? This time, you owe me one. People are clear." Gray. This guy's IQ is on the line. After Andy finished speaking, he looked up and down at Yejing, Ai Zayakui, and Ji Kinjian who was playing with her hair in boredom, and frowned. "Are these your friends? Why did you even bring the children? Isn't this nonsense? You're just a kid." Ji Kinjian glared at him fiercely, and suddenly her petite body trembled, and the fiery spiritual energy came out from her body, and she said confidently, "Did you see it? The 5th level of the human realm. This girl was taught by Jizikyu himself, right? Why are you in the 5th level after not seeing each other for a while?" "Oh." Andy glanced at her sideways, his face full of ridicule, but he didn't say anything. He looked back at Gray and said lazily, "Point to me, which store is it?" Gray pointed to a second-floor shop called Heiyang Antiques dozens of meters away, and said, "In that shop, there are 3 underground palace realms, all of which are members of the Black God Society. It's so far away, are you still worried about disturbing the situation?" Andy sneered, took the lead, and walked over. Gray and others followed. On the way, Gray whispered, "Watch the show. He is the most skilled at doing this kind of thing in the Demon City." "This kind of thing?" Yejing muttered in his heart, "Isn't it just arresting people? Is there anyone skilled or not?" When everyone arrived in front of Heiyang Antique Shop and dispersed the pedestrians, Andy gently took off his sunglasses, squinted his eyes and murmured, "This first shot was taken by our fielding." After that, he waved behind him, with a fierce look on his face, and said fiercely, "Go in. Smash it with me." "Yes." The 8 big men in purple who were standing behind ADI waiting for orders gave a loud shout, and they all rushed forward. 2 of them smashed the plaque, and 1 of them tore down the door. In an instant, there were screams in the shop, with the crisp sound of breaking porcelain, and all the customers inside ran out in the blink of an eye. Yejing was stunned. Isn't this too arrogant? Doesn't it have a bad impact? Gray sneered, arrogance? What you want is arrogance. How can anyone take us seriously if we are not arrogant? Anyway, Andy wants to grab the first shot. No matter how bad the impact is, the Federation will help him carry it. After saying this, Gray kicked Munanman, who was lying on the ground, away, and the second one walked in. It seems that I am not happy in my heart. Yejing glanced at the onlookers who were taking out their mobile phones to take photos and videos. He didn't feel shy. After laughing, he suddenly stamped his feet. The blue stone on the ground flew into pieces, as if he was under control. After a cracking sound was drawn in the air, the wall of the shop was smashed into holes and tatters. This kind of broken decoration should be repaired after being smashed. To vent, I walked in myself. He didn't know why, but the worse it was, the happier he felt. Smash the store. Ji Qingjian's cute face showed joy and excitement. She had only seen this kind of thing on the internet. She didn't expect that she could take part in it now with the help of light. A group of happy people rushed in, jumping up and down. Even Ai Zayakui, who had always been relatively calm, banged on the broken door before walking in. The shop was already in a mess. Coincidentally, when everyone came in, 3 men with hideous faces ran out from the back of the shop. Seeing the dilapidated state of the shop, they instantly became furious and said with murderous intent, "Who are you? Don't you know whose territory this is? The real owner has come out." After Gray and Andy looked at each other, Andy raised his eyebrows, his eyes full of mockery, and said lazily, "I know, isn't it the stronghold of the Black God Society? Is there any problem? You dare to come and cause trouble even if you know it? You really don't know how to live or die? Believe it or not, I will kill all 9 of your tribes." The man standing at the front of the 3 men suppressed his anger and threatened in a deep voice. "Haha, it's your Black God Guild's shop that's being smashed. Not only is the shop smashed, but people are also smashed." After Andy said something coldly, he waved behind him. "Kill these 3 people."